What's up everyone, and welcome back, and thanks so much for watching. We actually got us another bike here in the garage. We're going to be doing you can see it behind me here, we're going to be doing just some maintenance on it and clean up, so nothing major. It is a 2021 Road Glide, and I will say, this bike is way too new and way too nice for me. But we're going to dig into it and kind of go over some of the things that we're going to show you guys and just see how we can just maybe make this thing look just a little bit better than it was when it came in. So just kind of looking it over, you can see how nice this bike is. I mean, it's just, I personally think it's tastefully done. I like the blacked out look. That's just me. I know we have differences, opinions on that stuff. And then the S&S, I believe that's brushed stainless. I'm gonna have to check on that pipes, which is super nice. This bike is ridden, I would say, more than average. It's got 30,000 miles on it, so it's due for its plugs and some other fluids and so forth that we're gonna do. I don't want to say maybe driven every day, but pretty much a lot. So it gets used, which is good. It's not sitting in a garage. This bike is doing what it's supposed to be doing. That's out on the highway getting ridden. But we are going to do oil change, primary fluid change. I'm not going to bore you guys with that. There's a lot of great content out there for stuff like that. But one thing we will be digging into is, oh yeah, gotta love the screen there. It baffles me to see that, but it's cool, super cool stuff. One thing is the plug change. So on these Milwaukee 8s, you've got your plugs right there, as we all know from going back many, many, many years. And for those of you that don't know, you have another plug right there. So these are dual plug heads, dual plug cylinders, whatever you want to call it, which requires removal of that. Now, that is something I'm going to put on video because you do have to remove the tank. I know a lot of people are thinking, oh man, I don't want to remove the tank. It's not that difficult. The only advice I would say is just try to keep it empty, just to keep it lightweight. But the cool thing is, guys, when you remove that tank, you remove the seat, you can get to all this. You can clean these rocker boxes up top and all that, and change your plugs at the same time. So you can really get to all that. But we're gonna start some of the basic maintenance. I'm not gonna put all that on camera. And then we will just kind of catch back up to you guys when we start taking this thing apart to get to those plugs. We are going to go ahead and pull this gas tank for this bike so we can get to the fun spark plug. So just a couple things to call out that we will be doing here. First of all, you've got this line coming down here. Okay, so this is a line you got to unplug. This goes to, I believe, the fuel pump and all that fun stuff, as well as you've got this vent line to remove. Some models, depending on the gas tank, this one has the side fill, but if you have the center fill, they have another vent line that just exits down here. All you're going to do is just pull that out with the gas tank, and you just fish it right back down where it went. Super easy. We will be removing excess fuel from the line by simply unplugging that first, trying to start the bike, and it should run for maybe just a split second or so. I've honestly done these before without doing that, but I'm going to give it a shot just because it's something that I've been reading about. These bolts, you've got these two here and then the two up front. This whole piece comes out as one unit. So when you lift the tank out, you can just get your hand underneath it. It makes it very simple. These are either a T40 Torx or a 1/2 inch. Use a 1/2 inch socket. It's so much easier than getting a Torx bit in there. I know people use them a lot on the YouTubes, but I personally don't like them. And I'm even going to go the extra mile and pull that 50 amp fuse just to be safe. And then the bolts up front, if I can show, they are simply behind. They should just pop right off. Yep, see, that just comes right off. You take those out, and the cool thing is when you remove all 4 bolts, the tank's just sitting there and you can just take your time to pull it off. We'll go ahead and pull this for safe measure. Now for these fittings right here, they're pretty easy. At least watch, this one will be difficult. It's literally like if you ever run a quick disconnect water hose or airline or something like that, it's basically just, it pops up. Since we purged the line, we didn't even have any fuel in it anyway to begin with, because I did run it a little bit yesterday, but that's fine. But what all you should have to do is pull up like that. This comes down, just a little bit of, tiny bit of gas in there, and that's it. That's all she needs right there. So that is now disconnected. Perfect. Now onto these fronts here. You can see the fairing is actually right here on the Road Glide, which since it's frame mounted, which makes Road Glides awesome, by the way, does make it a little more difficult to get to this just because it's in the way, but still not that bad. So you can now see on this how this will lift up, and it's free. This gas tank is pretty full, so I'm going to go get somebody to help me with it. We're going to do at this point, you basically just lift it up and take it back just a little bit and get a hold of it. And then I like to have help just because these tanks are obviously very expensive and you do not want to drop them and hurt them because it's a very critical point. But we will be right back in a second. You can see with some help, we got that tank off pretty easy. Even put the bolts back in the holes. Always do that so you remember where stuff goes. Of course, these nice brand new bikes, it makes all that so easy and nice. Everything just goes right in. You can do this by yourself. You can easily lift it, but sometimes it just helps to have a friend help you out because you don't want to mess stuff up. So the plug's over here, easy to get to, just like we all grew up loving. There are so many wires though in there. Boy, it's driving my OCD, ADHD, whatever you want to call it, crazy. And over on this side, for the extra plugs that they gave us, that Harley blessed us all with, these are tough to get to. Now, what I did do, and I already got these done, is I used this handy little plastic tool that I use for flipping just about everything. Slid that down in there so I could then get my thumb and just kind of work it up. You do not want to pull these by the actual wire. You can get lucky and be fine, but the connector that's in there, you can kind of see it, they will break loose, or even worse, you'll get a loose connection and you'll get an intermittent bad spark or missed spark, and you'll know it when you're going down the road. I do recommend getting some boot pullers if you want to go buy the tool, but as long as you're just getting a hold of that top boot, the main cover, you're fine. Just be very careful with it and also watch the finish. That's why I like to use stuff like this. You don't want to mar this finish up because we're going to clean all that up. But we're going to get the plugs in. They're gapped to, I think, 0.031 to 0.035, something like that. Check your specs because I think on these Milwaukee 8 engines, the gap changed a little bit, but we're going to get right to it. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one out. We'll start with this one and do all the others relatively quick. This is a 5/8. This is a regular spark plug socket. You definitely want to make sure you get, and you'll see it whenever I'm going through the motions, you definitely are going to want to get something that can grab a hold of the plug over on that side because it's going to be down in there. And then when you go to set it down in, you can use anything. I've used needle nose pliers. You can use a piece of tubing. There's all kinds of things. You want to be careful about just dropping the plug, though, down in there. I've done it before, but I would hate for something to break. And as I assume, these are very loose, as they should be. These are, you're supposed to go, I think, with plugs like 80 inch-pounds. I just do it by feel, just a little bit. You can see this is what we're putting in it right here, just to show, yes, they're actual Harley-Davidson plugs. And for those of you that argue whether or not you should or shouldn't gap, these were just a hair too tight. I opened them up just a tiny, tiny amount. But even there, it says to adjust it per spec. So just check them, guys. It's real easy. The cheap little tool you can get. And when you start these, be very gentle. Plugs for anything where you have the aluminum, because you got these hard steel threads on the plugs going down into these aluminum heads. So just make sure they're doing what they're supposed to. See that? I'm just using, that's it. That's all it needs. Not even using the full ratchet. That one is done. Now, when you're getting these started down in here, be very, very careful because you're not going to be able to get your hands down in there to start them by hand. It's kind of like if you've ever changed plugs on a modern car where they go down in those, I don't know what you call them, those tubes that go down through the valve train at the top. Just be careful with it. And what I've done here is I've actually using a socket that does not have the rubber in it. So when I'm done, you can just lift it off. Because otherwise it's going to get stuck to the socket or stuck to the plug and you're going to have to pull it right back out. Oh yes, you guys can enjoy the wonderful bug guts right there. If you didn't notice it, then you're welcome. But we got them all in. That's good. I got a little bit of the grease for the boots. I don't know if everybody likes running the boot grease. I do, just because whenever you go to remove those things, if they get really hot, they don't stick. I'm actually going to take some time to clean all this area. So you can see down in here. I know that seems kind of silly, but when you get up in the frame, that's just how I do it. So I'm going to give this guy a full-on detail. And we've actually got some chromage on this side. So we're just going to get to the spots that we can't get to with the tank on it, as well as do this without falling on my tools. Over here, you can especially see it over here. But then I definitely want to get the tank back on to make sure she starts up just fine and everything's good. So we will get back to you in just a moment. We got cleaned up underneath it pretty good. You don't have to clean the backbone. I just do that for OCD reasons, but it really lets you kind of get to these rocker boxes at the top. And while we were there, clean them up. Let's go see over on this side. You can see the same thing. It really allowed us to get to them. I'm digging these black rocker boxes, I will say that. So you can see we got the gas tank back on, got all the lines hooked up, got all of our plugs in and all that. There we go. All good. Gotta love these screens. Drives me crazy, but pretty dang cool though. A lot of tech. That's your thing. Pretty cool. Well, that's going to do it for the plugs on this bike. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for someone. We do need to clean this bike up some more and get to some other stuff to it. Probably make another video on that. But until then, please like and subscribe if you can, and we'll talk to you guys next time.